Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Air Jordan 36 or the Jordan 36 Slow? So as you can see, today we're taking the high and the low edition of this 36th model to release in Michael Jordan's line, kind of seeing how they compare. And this is definitely one of those reviews that you're going to see a lot of similarities between these shoes. It's going to be kind of similar to the LeBron 19 versus the 19 low that I did. I think it was a few months ago now. But as for pricing, I'm just going to call like the original Jordan 36 shoe, like the one that we got in black and red today. I'm just going to call that the Jordan 36. Then whenever I'm talking about the Air Jordan 36 low, our white pair here, I'm going to just add the low to the end of it. Otherwise, I'm going to be using words like the word original like 100 times in this review. I don't really want to do that. You probably don't want to hear that. So the Jordan 36 came out a little bit under a year ago, retailing for $185. It's a little bit pricey, but I mean, it's just 36 shoes, so I mean, really not too bad. And then the Jordan 36 low did come down in price, retailing for $175. And I said this when they first came out, like the Jordan 36 model is just super dope. Like I've really been feeling his line, like more of his recent designs, like ever since like the Jordan 33. That's when I really started to get into more basketball shoes and actually doing performance tests on them. And that's around the same time that they added that like eclipse plate to the bottom of the shoe. And you're gonna get that on both shoes. And it doesn't really see, or like you don't really see that a lot on other lines. Like I think the only other ones I've personally played in that have like that similar exposed setup down there was like the GT Jump. But I mean, something else that I wanted to go ahead and point out right now is that these shoes are about as close as it gets in shoe height to where you can call one or the other pair like the low version. Like we're talking maybe half an inch higher in the heel on the original Jordan 36, but like that's the majority of our difference here. And with that, Jordan didn't really change a lot from the 36 down to the low version. And I'm assuming that's because they barely even cut it down, so they didn't really need to. But one of the few differences that Jordan did do is kind of put that Jumpman logo on like a patch that runs over the lacing system for the Jordan 36. But on the lows, they went ahead and moved that logo up to the tongue. And I really like this stripe that kind of runs along the midsole, like outlining the shoe. It's going to be red on the Jordan 36 and more of like an iridescent or like silver color on the lows over here. But it's a really clean look. And you're going to get the same heel setup on both shoes with the Jordan 36 text kind of like running along in like a cursive font. And then along with that is going to be a Jumpman and a Nike logo on that same little piece back there. So as far as the optics, like these shoes are super tough. But now let's see how they hold up on the court. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning, I can't even get one line into this review without being totally honest with you. These shoes are like control copy paste of each other. So there aren't going to be a lot of differences, but whenever there are differences, I'll be sure to draw it out. But for the cushioning, there just really isn't. Like both shoes are going to get a full-length Zoom Air Strobel unit that is stitched directly to the upper to help minimize weight. And then on the Air Jordan 36, it's actually like Nike references an additional Zoom Air unit like in the forefoot to add an extra burst of responsiveness. They only put that in the product details for the original Jordan 36. They didn't have it there for the lows, but I mean it is there because you can literally see it on both of these models. Like if you're looking at them from the bottom, there's like that front portion is like, like exactly what you'd call it. Like it's a reverse indent. I can't really think of the word for it, but it kind of like protrudes or like extends out from the bottle, and it's the same on both. Like I put one shoe on, I walked around like put one shoe on, walked around blind, put one foot on each shoe. They like there's nothing. They feel the exact same from like their original Jordan 36 to the low version. And honestly, that's exactly what you want because this is one of the better cushioning feels that you can get. Like even with the cushioning being a little bit top heavy, if you want to call it that, like the heel still feels soft. Like I don't feel like an unbalanced setup, even though like I said, it is kind of catered to the forefoot because you get some additional stuff kind of stacked up there. But I've definitely come to like models like that though. I mean, I almost prefer that kind of front, that top heavy setup if you want to call it that. And then using our handy durometer, they actually do score about the same with the Jordan 36 reading in that like 38 to 40 range, and the lows are going to be right there with them around like 37. So this tool just kind of tests how soft like the material is, and the mid to upper 30 range is about average for most basketball shoes, and the impact protection is just kind of solid all the way around. I am definitely a fan of the cushioning for this year's Jordan 36. For the materials and the support, the resemblance between these shoes is going to live on here. I mean, the materials on the upper are really nice for both shoes though. You're going to get a lino weave upper paired with a dynamic, like flexible tongue for breathability. And that's how the Jordan 36 is described. On the lows, like I think the upper material is like synthetic leather, is like they call it something like that, but it is going to be like the same feel, and it does help keep the support strong on both models. Like any types of hard step backs or just like coming to a stop quickly, I haven't felt the upper allow your foot to just like move around at all. And after having some leather and like suede pieces on the Jordan 35 from last year, I mean that was nice, but I just kind of like the look of like textiles on this Jordan 36 model a little bit more. But we're all going to have our preferences there. But as I touched on just a second ago, that hollowed out section between the midsole and the outsole does expose like the shoe shoe's stabilizing shank. Basically, that's just like what helps keep the shoe intact. So it's like not bending on your foot whenever you're running around or anything like that. But it also is going to be there to help reduce the weight. And that was kind of always a knock on Jordan shoes, is that they could tend to be on the heavier side. But the Jordan 36 weighs 410 grams for a size 10.5, which is easily on the lighter side for, let's just call it a mid-top shoe. And then the lows are going to be a shade lighter, weighing 400 grams even for the same size. But I mean, I really do love the light aspect for these shoes, especially whenever the support's going to check out, so you don't have to worry about that. But I mean, with these models weighing that close, it just kind of adds to my whole point that this is pretty much the same shoe. Like, Jordan Brand is out here fleecing us by releasing the same shoe twice. Now I'm just playing. Like, I mean, I'm kind of playing, because it is pretty much true with how close these models are. Like, I just feel like there should be more than a 10-gram difference between a high and a low model. I'll just kind of say that. Like, I haven't done a ton of like high and low top like versus reviews, but the LeBron 19 high and low was like over 100 grams difference in weight. The Kyrie 8 and the high and the low was like 30 or 40, like something like that. It's just a little bit too close for me, but it's an excellent shoe, so I'm really just ranting for no reason at this point. Let's move on. So to finish off with traction, I mean, if you made it this far, thank you for basically watching my breakdown of the Jordan 36 model a year ago all over again, because we have quite literally the same exact traction setup, same pattern, same material, same everything. But hey, just like every aspect of this shoe, it's once again one of the highlights of this model. Like, Nike calls this a multi-directional outsole pattern. Really, it's just a traditional herringbone setup for the most part, with some arrows built in there to provide stop and go traction, and we can pretty much check mark that there. Like, that's exactly what the Jordan 36 model does. And not that it matters, but this translucent outsole is like super clean. It's a little tricky to keep clean because, you know, it will show a lot of dirt, especially if you're like playing in these outdoors, but a really sick looking model. And then the grip is also going to be about as good as it gets. Like, these have so much bite on the floor. I haven't had any issues with my Jordan 36 model a year later, and you know, the lows have played the exact same way so far. And the grooves are pretty thick, so that along with the cushioning is going to make these a solid option for outdoors. You know, more so if that's kind of the only court that you have access to. For me, like more expensive models like this, I try to keep on an indoor surface just to kind of prolong their life, but it'll definitely work either way. Then as for sizing, I went true to size on both, and it's pretty standard for the length, maybe a little bit less than the thumb's width left over. And these range on like the normal to slightly narrow side, so keep that in mind. So for the final ratings, absolutely none of these answers should surprise you. I mean, the appearance is sick on both, but I am partial to lows. But let's face it, either of these shoes could be a low or a mid. Jordan's not really fooling anyone here, so I'm going to keep that section as a tie. So for the cushioning, we're going to have a tie. For the materials, I think I'm going to go with a tie here. The support is kind of tough. Not really. We're going to go with the tie again. And we'll just keep that train moving and go with a tie for the traction. And that means both of these models are the better shoe to hoop in because they're pretty much the same exact shoe. And sometimes that could be a letdown, but here it really isn't. Like I said this a week ago whenever I did my review on the Jordan 36 low model. If there were some flaws in the Air Jordan 36, like in the original one between like the cushion, the traction, support, just whatever the category would be, I would have liked to see those try and get fixed on the low, but it's just the only problem that Air Jordan 36 original was already pretty great. So, I mean, saving us $10, which is about $1 per gram, but the shoe is lighter, but the low version is lighter than the original 36. Guess that's good enough for me. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe and give this video a like if this is your first time here. But if you guys are interested in buying these shoes or buying the Air Jordan 36 Low and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, where we do have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.